Okay, so excuse me, I just woke up. Well, not too long ago. But anyway, so we're going to get into talking about the mystery schools and the lost history of Atlantis. So I'm going to try to keep it as simple as I can. I'm going to start doing series to where I'll get more into detail and into depth with things. Okay, so we all know about the planets. Every planet has, with everything physical, there is something spiritual, right? So, um, we have galactic planets that are non physical reflections of the physical planets. Okay, Earth is different because Earth was created. We're going to talk about that, right? But you know, the extraterrestrial civilization, there are many different civilizations of extraterrestrials. And just like we have different ethnicities, they have different groups of extraterrestrials. Not all extraterrestrials appreciate or value human life, okay? But at the same time, you have other civilizations who are protectors and who are for human life. The one thing that all of these groups have in common is that human life is an experimentation to them. Okay? So, at one point in time, and this is where star seeds root from, okay? There was a gateway, there was a portal. I mean, eons. The extraterrestrial civilization, the life was confined to galaxies, you know. But a portal came, and this portal, this change, it was actually chaos. Okay, so chaos came, and the result of chaos opened this portal for these civilizations to come to Earth. Okay, you see, God is the creator of Earth. All right, so God started off as an extraterrestrial. Okay, and this is how he got his name, God. At first, his name was Omega. Okay, and God was kind of like, he was a special case. He was different from extraterrestrial. Let's say he was special needs. Okay, he was like the special needs of the extraterrestrials, and he was the only one of his kind. So he goes to his council, and they had already noticed him, and they began to work with him. And he had a special teacher, okay? And this teacher uh, was highly favored him, okay? And the Galactic Council denied for God to be able to create a planet of his own, right? Because they said that in him creating a planet of his own, there would he what he's going to do is that he's going to bring physical. He's going to bring elements. He's going to bring solid, right? So when I tell you that the planets have, there's a galactic planet in which that is reflected. When it comes to Earth, Earth does not have a reflection, it has the moon. Okay, and it gets real complicated because this is how shit begins to break down. Astronomy, astrology, all of it. Okay, but like I said, we'll get into that. I'm just going to keep it basic. So, when the council begin to study God, and when they begin to see, that he kind of had the potential to actually take over the council and recreate and redirect the extraterrestrial life, they said, okay, go ahead, let him create. So he created the world. However, he created the world. His creation was protected. God is a genius. Okay, so the thing is that over some time, because I'm going to tell you, God didn't create Adam and Eve right away. All he created was land and water. Okay, and he studied the elements in which that he created: wind, fire, water, and earth. Okay, I'm gonna tell you something. I don't know where the fuck these clouds came from, but hey. So, he would spend a lot of his time within his planet, and he would do research. And it's kind of like God was a storyteller. So, stories in which that he would tell, because it's like he would sit on the earth and he would tell stories. And these stories would actually manifest into other things later on, like animals, insects, humans, and all this type of stuff, right? But the thing is that God was still under authority. Okay, he had the ultimate authority, but he had allies. He had his people. So there were times to where he was restricted. He felt some type of way about the restriction. So he created this barrier to where nobody else could enter on Earth. All right. And then, the civilizations, everybody is kind of like the fury of all the extraterrestrial civilizations. Their fury became chaos, because it's kind of like they wanted access. But God is just like, you will not have access to my creation, because other extraterrestrials couldn't do that. They could not create. They were powerful in their ways of doing things. They could come up, dealing with electromagnetic fields, and they were more so scientists. Okay, so they became very intrigued and obsessed with the creator. So their fury created chaos in the galaxy, in the universe. And this created a portal to Earth. Okay? And so I'm going to honestly tell you, I don't know the in between. I have to tap in more, but I don't know how Atlantis was created. Okay? But Atlantis was created. It was considered to be heaven on earth. And so this portal created a gateway for other extraterrestrial civilizations to come in and to experience the creator and his creation. Okay, so some individuals were curious and happy about this. Some individuals were afraid. Other individuals, other civilizations are very destructive. Okay, so they don't care about anything. Right? So Atlantis was created. And like I said, it was considered to be heaven on earth. And, the atmosphere in which that God created, it was too dense for the higher beings. So what ended up happening is that these vessels begin to form, okay? Like, God worked with some of the other extraterrestrials because they are scientists, okay? So he would work with them and created, I want to say geno, or something like that, but more so DNA, okay? And within this DNA needed to be protected and covered, okay? So that's when we came up with flesh, all right? So this was a long time in the making. Atlantis was around for a very long time, and it was like an island, you know, and there was a limit to population. You know, people aged differently during that time. They aged a lot slower. Okay. So, you know, there was no overpopulating, there was no, and then sometimes individuals, with having that portal, they didn't want to. Sometimes they would come down to experience Atlantis and then they would go back, so I mean, it was kind of like a cycle. you know they there there was no way trying to figure out how to not overpopulate things. Okay, so Atlantis was created. You had a different extraterrestrial civilization come in and destroy Atlantis. So these individuals migrated over to Africa. Okay, and Africa is when everybody got spread out. And Africa is, at this time, it wasn't called Africa, it was called something else. The world says it was Pandera, something like that, but no. It was actually called something else. So, but in order for me to give you an idea of what place they went, it's Africa. Okay, so the thing is that with the land being bigger, and there was changes within the human form. You understand? These human forms begin to multiply, and these bodies, they begin to develop differently from the time in which they were on Atlantis. After Atlantis was destroyed, it's kind of like the density of the atmosphere, it just became more. Okay, so I know you're kind of like, well, what happened to Adam and Eve? Adam and Eve didn't come until later. And then on top of that, you have to remember the Bible is a book of stories. Okay, so his story, whose story is it? Right? It's Jesus' story. It's not God's story. Okay, even though they say God made Adam and Eve, that comes from man. There's another book. It's the Garden of Eden, and that's when they talk about Lilith. Okay, like that's kind of like a spin-off. The world is built off of stories. So, you have to be careful about what you take in and what it is in which that you believe. Even when it comes to listening to me, I'm a storyteller too, right? But the thing, I can only share with you what I know. Okay, I can only share with you what I know. Whatever you think, however you feel, that's on you. Okay, but there are a lot of individuals that teach, that know about the mystery schools, because after a while, when everybody got separated, and then individuals start procreating and having children, and things started to the population began to grow. there was a consciousness. You see, now that this portal is open, now these extraterrestrial beings have access to come into God's creation and pretty much do whatever they wanted to do, right? But the thing is that God is in alliance with these individuals. Okay? Never forget where you come from. I come from a Christian background, right? And when I discovered something more than Christianity, I became resentful for being lied to from Christianity. And, I became very discriminate against religion. So, I had to learn. I had to learn that you must stay connected. You must stay rooted. You must not forget where you come from, because you came from that place for a reason. The same thing goes for your parents when you have issues with your parents. You can love your parents, you can forgive your parents for if they've done something to you, but never forget where you come from. Okay? So, you had, other civilizations playing around with these experiments, which, are called humans. So, and a lot of their memory, a lot of individuals' memories had been wiped out. But there are individuals who had, should I say a special DNA? We'll say a shielded DNA. And there were certain things over time that would trigger these DNA, activation and movements, mutation, we'll say, in DNA. So this is what you call waking up. So these individuals began to wake up. They began to remember Atlantis. They began to remember their galactic civilization. So they began to form these mystery schools. These mystery schools were very sacred, and a select few were chosen. There are individuals who are incarnations of teachers who have, who were teachers and who also attended the mystery schools. Okay? So we're going to wrap it up there. Remember one thing. Energy never dies. Energy never dies. There are many dimensions and places, spaces, and time to where energy is filtered through, but it never dies. Okay? So there are a lot of incarnated individuals who are here now, who are waking up and remembering certain things about lifetimes ago. Okay, so like I said, we're going to start getting into these series, but we're going to kick it off right here. So until the next time, we'll talk again. Thank you.